Regardless of how you look at time and space, free will always comes up as a metaphysical issue after contemplating the metaphysical questions of time and space. If we live in a physically deterministic reality of time and space, free will seems to be a fiction useful only to the law for punishing those whose physical destiny is to be criminals. Unfortunately, in a deterministic reality of time and space, the truth is that the physical realities of time and space decide when we are, who we are, and our choices. There are no free choices. Living in a random universe would not be much better on this issue of free will, because free will assumes the ability to make rational choices between meaningful options. If we are really only making guesses between meaningless options in a random universe, again, free will is only a fiction useful and created by the powers that be to hold the powerless responsible for acts over which they are not really free to choose or decide. Either way, in a deterministic reality or a random reality of time and space, there appears to be no free will, and it seems to be a meaningless concept for the majority of the world. Since these podcasts are looking at philosophy from the working class perspective, it is probably best to get right to the point on this concept of free will, since most workers realize anyway fairly early in their lives that the concept of free will, as it is normally used or in its normal usefulness, is pretty much a joke. The few powers that be who actually have the predestined or fated power to force their version of how things ought to be on the rest of the world waste time and space arguing about free will, since they are the only ones for which the words free will have any usefulness. Existentially and ontologically, to the powers that be with their predestined power to define their existence and to force it upon others, free will is a useful fiction for excusing their execution and punishment, or the execution and punishment stage of whatever system of ethics or law they create to enforce their ought-to-bes or morality upon the world. For more contemplation of the nature of ethics and morality, please listen to the podcast episodes on those subjects, and to the podcast episodes contemplating the question of why does God hate the poor. For the majority of the world, and for the majority of workers, the power's use of the word free will is a joke. We have no choice as to our birth, our parents, families, schools, friends, intellect, physical characteristics, social class, economics, work, or really of anything of value in life. From the moment of our conception, workers' destinies are set for us, except in the rare instances of luck combining with an egotistical will to power. For men, unless they are lucky enough to have something to sell to the powers that be to become their well-paid house servants, the choice in life is either to work or to go to jail. For working women, they have a third option of marrying a male power that be, if they are lucky enough to have something worth selling to them. However, as the philosopher Spinoza concluded, such reality does not ontologically and existentially make the concept of free will totally meaningless for workers whose lives are entirely in the hands of destiny, fates, or whatever. As the philosopher Spinoza pointed out, knowledge is freedom. Knowing that you are not free and choosing either to accept it or fight it is the worker's free will. If you accept it, fine, hopefully the fates will appreciate some acceptance and treat you well if you are destined to be treated well. If you decide to fight your destiny, you will not be able to change it, but hopefully, as Albert Camus wrote in the ending of both his short stories and essays, The Stranger and the Myth of Sisyphus, you will know the happiness of spitting in the face of the fates. Quotation, "For everything to be consummated, for me to feel less alone, I had only to wish that there be a large crowd of spectators the day of my execution, and that they greet me with cries of hate," close quotation mark, from The Stranger. Quotation, "The struggle itself to the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy," post quotation from the myth of Sisyphus.